know about Association of Indian Management Schools? It's a 34-year-old networking body of B schools in India, having a membership of about 600 top management institutions. AIMS focuses on professionalization of management education, protects interests of B schools, represents management institutions at national and international forums, financially supports members in academic events, funds research projects on management, disseminates management-related knowledge through its annual Management Education Convention, conferences, seminars, roundtables and workshops, organizes free weekly webinars on knowledge sharing and inspiring young leaders sessions for management faculty and students, supports B schools in admissions through Atma, AIMS test for management admissions. Visit https://atmaims.com for more details. Publishes a biannual AIMS Journal of Management. Visit https://aimsjournal.com for more details. Circulates a quarterly e-newsletter on AIMS activities. Conducts workshops on case writing. Encourages AIMS members to be part of decision-making processes as members of chapter management committees and the executive board. Encourages students' participation in free weekly quiz competitions by providing support to interested institutions. Facilitates networking and interaction among B schools. Why would you like to remain a non-member of AIMS? Pay a very low one-time membership fee and enjoy many lifetime benefits. Visit https://aims.org.in for more details.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session on global supply chain management scenario in the 2020 decade, organized by the Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS. I am Dr. Smita Dikshit, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Commerce and Management, United University, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. Before we get to the main topic, let me brief you regarding global supply chain management. A global supply chain refers to the network of businesses involved in producing and delivering a product or service spanning across multiple countries and continents. It is like the process of managing the flow of goods and services from raw materials to finished goods, ensuring that it reaches the end consumers in the most efficient and cost-effective way. Now, it is not as easy as it sounds. There are a number of challenges spanning across entire supply chain. The topic for today's session is particularly relevant in the current scenario, where businesses are facing unprecedented challenges due to the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The disruptions caused by the pandemic had exposed the vulnerabilities in the global supply chains and have forced businesses to rethink their strategies. Our today's speaker will be sharing his insight in the present trends and practices of global supply chain management in the post-COVID-19 era. The past decade has witnessed a significant transformation in the supply chain industry with the emergence of various technologies such as e-commerce, IoT, Internet of Things, blockchain, among others. The speaker will be exploring these trends and the impact on the supply chain ecosystem. Now, today we are very fortunate to have with us Mr. Jagatpati Jha, Director Project JRP-CGL, who is an expert in the field of supply chain management. Before we begin, let me just share Mr. Jha's illustrious career. Mr. Jagatpati Jha is highly accomplished business leader in the field of global supply chain management, with over 3 decades of experience in the industry. A person who has demonstrated remarkable ability to expand and consolidate logistics operation in the emerging markets and has executed multiple projects in the power generation, oil and gas, infrastructure and other core industrial sectors. Holding master's degree in international business management and foreign trade development from PSGIM under Bharatiya University of Coimbatore, he has done an executive program in international shipping management and global supply chain management from prestigious business school IIM Kolkata. Throughout his career, Mr. Jha has demonstrated a remarkable ability to expand and consolidate logistic operations in the emerging markets. He has executed multiple projects in the power generation, oil and gas, infrastructure, and other core industrial sectors. He began his career with the renowned firm DHL AFL Private Limited in the 1993 and has since held various positions with the global MNCs, where he has restructured businesses and transformed them into profitable entities by enforcing compliance protocols, implementing new processes, and mentoring teams to attain business objectives. He currently represents a specialized logistic company focused on international projects, industrial engineering infra, oil and gas. His key focus areas are renewable energy, projects, infrastructure, refineries, and more. He has handled numerous memorable projects across Brazil, South Africa, and Philippines. Now, despite the many challenges he has faced during his illustrious career, Mr. Jha remains committed to India's infrastructure growth and takes great satisfaction in being at the forefront of this important work. While the infrastructure in India has significantly improved, the challenges of managing larger and more complex cargoes have only increased. However, he remains undaunted, embracing each challenge as an opportunity to innovate and find new solutions. Mr. Jha's deep knowledge and expertise in global supply chain management makes him a valuable asset to his organization and this industry. Now, before I hand over this session to Mr. Jha, I would like to share with the audience a few instructions. Participants cannot be able to unmute themselves. If they have any questions, they can put it in the Zoom chat box and it will be taken up in the Q&A sessions. Feedback attendance link will be shared in the Q&A session and it is available only for 15 minutes. Certificates will be issued to only those who submit the feedback form. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Jagatpati Jha to begin the session.
Thank you, Smita, for your introduction and kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected AMA President Dr. Nanagopal, other official, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Smita, boys and girls. To begin, the Indian logistics sector provides livelihood to more than 25 million people. The government aims to reduce logistic costs to the single digit with the introduction of National Logistic Policy and other various policies. As we all know, supply chain management is the backbone of any industry, be a core industry, FMCG, or any perishable industry. The GSM scenario in 22 decades more or less depend on the parameters of the ecosystem. Having the best supply chain does not only require it to be the fast and cost effective, it also must be agile and adaptable in order to respond when sudden unexpected changes occur in any market situation to obviate and mitigate the risk accordingly. For emerging supply chain trends are in the present scenario is the emerging technology like drones, autonomous intelligence, artificial intelligence, and robotic automation, which will transform warehousing, transportation, and distribution, which creates the network that may look and operate very differently than those today. Focus on supply chain visibility is also another trend, which is the Internet of Things that we call IoT. Big data and data transparency will improve organizations' ability to gain visibility on a real-time status of the supply chain network, giving them the ability to not only rapidly respond to the problems, but more and importantly, anticipate and prevent them more effectively. Data abundance will be used to draw insight on both short-term and long-term improvement to the supply chain and beyond. The other trends are sharing economy, on demand, sorry, warehousing and on demand logistics will allow organizations to be more flexible in how they operate their supply chain in present scenario. Lower capex and higher adaptability will attract organizations that are in a rapidly evolving industry. Evolving industry channels require their ongoing shift away from the traditional retail to direct to consumer shipping. This requires supply chain with the direct capability those days in the place today, which measures the impact of existing supply chain method. With this broadband trend in mind, organization must be constantly track select metric like warehouse utilization, other actual levels of profitability and product categories, and use that stop get measure to determine if there is any ongoing impact on the revenue growth and operating margin. Uh, in a broader sense, the supply chain industry is set to witness some more changes in coming decade or existing decade, driving by technology advance, shifting consumer behavior and new business model. The increasing adopting of artificial intelligence and other automation tools will significantly optimize operation and streamline supply chain management. Top of it, sustainability and ethical practice will also be in the spotlight as companies strive to minimize their carbon footprint and to ensure that their supply chain are socially responsible. The growth of e-commerce and omni-channel retail will also be a continue to drive changes as retailers strive to meet customer demands who expected seamless shopping experience across multiple channels. Other side, the emergence of blockchain technology in the supply chain will bring greater transparency, security, and efficiency to the industry in concern. With this trend shaping in the future of supply chain management, company will need to focus on agility and resilience to stay ahead of the curve and thrive in the ever-changing landscape. When we talk about the trend which influence supply chain methodology across the globe are adopting and mitigate the risk of theft, foul play in any other region in concern. So when we talk about the adoption of artificial intelligence and automation, which in supply chain is one of the prominent trends that business must look out for 2022 or 23 business forward. Optimization of operation and automation can help company to optimize operation by streamlining process, reducing error and increasing efficiency. But when you say about this trend, the improved decision making can analyze large amount of data in real time to provide insight that can help with the better decision making in the supply chain domain. The productivity enhancement where automation can help company to increase productivity by reducing the time and effort required for the manual task, which freeing up the resources for more strategic activity symptoms. We talk about the focus on sustainability, which becoming a key supply chain trend in 2020 decade. As companies look to reduce their carbon footprint and meet growing customer demand for the environment-friendly products. However, in response to the increased regulation and consumer pressure, companies are investing in sustainable sourcing, reduce waste, and adopting green technology to enhance their supply chain operation. The trend towards sustainability is also driven by the need to protect natural resources and reduce to impact the business operation on the environment. Companies recognize that focusing on sustainability benefit the environment and can be improved burden over the brand reputation, increase competitive to the lead and long-term cost saving. Growth of e-commerce, as we know, has been significantly affected supply chain trend in this decade as online shopping continue to become more prevalent globally. The rise of e-commerce has had a profound impact on the supply chain operation, which requiring company to adopt and improve their delivery process finally to meet the demand of online consumer. The trend is driven by the increased internet penetration, advancement of mobile technology, and the need for the convenient, fast, and reliable delivery option. Therefore, to meet the growing demand, companies are investing in new technology such as automation, artificial intelligence to streamline their supply chain operation. Furthermore, to ensure efficient delivery of product reaches to the end user as a and customers. The shift in the e-commerce is also reshaping in the retail industry and changing how goods are manufactured and distributed to, to the end user. We talk about the resilience which need to be focused on the agility. Focus on agility and resilience in supply chain had become a trend in 2020 decade due to the impact of COVID-19 on global supply chain. The pandemic highlighted the need of flexibility and quick response to the disruption, leading companies to prioritize their agile and resilient supply chain strategy. Further, to ensure business continuity, this includes increasing suppliers diversity, adoption of new technology, and further implementation of contingency plan in total. These trends are also expected to impact the supply chain industry in 2020 decade significantly and beyond. When we say about the technology, how it affect the economic of the country, the key Indian techno and the present policy which drafted in the Indian logistic policy had a major role to play for the further growth of GDP beyond 7.5% in this scenario before or by 2025. Am I audible? Hello? Sorry, I can't hear you.
I was just explaining to the needs and requirement of this automation of artificial intelligence and IoT, other tools in the Indian logistics scenario in present decade. So when I say about this, the automation which can help now company to optimize operational and streamline the process, which reduce the error as well as increasing the efficiency. But having said that, it cannot be always a analysis on the large amount of data in real time, which provides the insight which might be or can be helpful in the better decision making in the supply chain scenario. But what happens is when you try to increase or any organization in concern try to increase the productivity, automation, both help to each other, reducing the timeline and efforts which require on a manual task basis, while freeing up the resources and more strategic activity may not be possible in that domain localism. So what happens is in this scenario, the sustainability as well as focus to become a key supply chain trend may be as usual not possible in the system going forward. The government aims always to look forward this kind of a gap which can be fixed through the advancement of this tools and technology which we have handy in our supply chain domain. But trend towards always have to have the sustainability at driven at any point of time need to protect natural resources, because the natural resources also a kind of reduced impact of business operation on the environment side. So having said this, a growth of e-commerce in the sustainability level in the ecosystem play a major role defining the online shopping, which is the main activity of the e-commerce in the present decade. The rise of e-commerce has had a profound impact on the supply chain operation, which required company to adapt and improve their delivery process to meet the demands on online. And online consumer trends are driven by increased internet penetration, because internet IoT is the major tool by which the advancement in the mobile technology and other needs tools become a convenient for fast and reliable delivery option. So when I say to meet this growing demand, how companies are investing, you have to look into that point as well, because companies are investing in new technology, say automation or artificial intelligence, to streamline their supply chain operation and ensure efficiency delivery and products are as customers seek their shift into the e-commerce by reshaping the retail industry and changing how goods and manufactured distributed across the globe to be sold on. So when we say this e-commerce, again, it depends on how we expand our industry to 4.0 and IoT. The expansion of Industry 4.0 and IoT will be a major shift in this trade of, and they indicate a decade of companies aim to leverage technology, however, optimize their operation and integration, connected device, and other advanced analytical will increase the efficiency, waste reduction, and flow of goods throughout the supply chain, which need to be monitored. The trend is driving innovation and transformation in the industry. Companies seek capability and to capitalize this opportunity offered by industry, some of the industry which already adopted 4.02 and IoT, which become a competitive to retain the service block. Then when we talk about the blockchain of course is a key supply chain trend, as I say in a few minutes back, which not only enhance the transparency and security of the company, but enhance the operational flow and allow to secure a tamper-proof record of transaction, which allow the authority to maintain data, making it ideal for tracking a movement of goods throughout the supply chain process. The technology can always help and reduce the risk of fraud. Sometimes it happens, and the stakeholder in the collaboration with the trend set towards the blockchain may be driven by the need address which challenge in the supply chain domain. Such increasing globalization and complex logistic and evolving customer demands will be a point of concern. So when we talk about the resilience of uh, of the industry, or we focus on the agility and resilience. So what happens is in supply chain on the global level, the pandemic, if you remember how we had major challenges during the 2019 and up to 2022 on the global level, the pandemic highlighted the need for the flexibility and the quick response to disruption, because the leading company to make a priority of agile resilient supply chain strategy to be in place to ensure the business flow always remain continuous, as well as business flexibility, which need to increase the suppliers diversity adopting the new technology. This implementation of their contingency plan was the main focus and kind of achievement during the pandemic, what we saw a few years back. These trends are expected to impact the supply chain industry decade 2020 more, beyond driving and innovation, efficiency, and the customer satisfaction. So what happens is prior to 2020, we had a global disappointment when I say about 2010 to 2020. So if I touch base, hello, I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Sorry. So I didn't see any voice. Okay. So I would like to touch base of this uh, supply chain domain is more or less connected to two major factors. Is one is economical growth and as well as the pandemic and resilience sustainability. So when I say about this global economic disappointment in decade 2010 and to 2020, we had a serious uh, kind of disappointment. And I warn, unless corrective action is taken, it is estimated global output was not supposed to be the 5% lower by 2025, what we projected a few years back. Then it's a pre-pandemic trend because the growth rate at which inflation ignite is set to drop below 2% in my knowledge in the next decade, which is having already declined by 2.5% by 2020 from the earlier decade of 2010 to 2020 by 3.4% per decade if you take a roughly an average. Uh, so there need to be a lost decade if the right policy steps were taken then, especially in the area of rescaling worker and putting a floor under those hit hardest by the crisis then. But nobody anticipated this kind of roller coaster will have in this coming decade. One way out of include encouraging policy that creates incentive for business to innovate and invest, particularly in the climate change, because central banks are most nation government bank which is already signaling to they keep the stimulus running at top and hot, but far from the reality. So when I say why I recommend this kind of policy, mixed policy, which can push the rebound towards the recovery of innovation, support high productive growth, and new investment may come, raising the livelihood and upward standards. But the key to the strategy to keep and train workers to take advantage of this higher productivity is always an opportunity to us. There is a genuine uncertainty over how much people behaviors in terms of consumption pattern changes as a result of this crisis. Because if the people go back to eating the restaurant and doing leisure travel, working out and gym, and then go to industry with revive, this taste just cannot be changed in which there is going to be a transition, more unemployment, and there is no need for the government to fix that. So in nutshell, I can see an advanced economy less affected by the virus during the pandemic year, what we had 2019 to 2022 and beyond, with low income country and emerging markets suffering more than a contrast to the 2009 when a rich nation were hit harder. If you remember that how we 2009 we had a serious kind of challenges. So my impression is the global economy will get back to the full employment after the pandemic much more quickly than it did. That was anticipation after the financial crisis. But once back, the full employment to the global economy will be stuck in the lower gear that prevailed prior to the pandemic. So what happens is when we say global supply chain is the backbone of all the industry. So it's required by any industry or vertical to get along their economy uh, in economic healthy environment. So this upheaval of economy it sometimes embrace what we had in 1991 style of when we had a leveraged economic reform. So if I say how that was incompetitive to this market and growth miracles in the countries such as South Korea, China, you see it defied the post-World War second consensus that the poorest country needed to shield their infant industry from outside competition. But a program of fiscal discipline and deregulation was not there in the place. So currency and the trade liberalization and privatization phenomenon, which known to be, we call it in a Washington census, become the leading prescription of a developing country. But having said that, it's very, very important to remember that in 1991, when we had a reform, did come out the blue. It didn't come out the blue purely in response to this crisis. They had been fermenting for more than a decade, prompted which far beyond the success of India's more open Asian neighbor, maybe China, maybe Philippines and other Southeast Asia region. Exactly 30 years ago, when the looming balance of payment crisis finally convinced India as a leader, then the dismantle is socialism was called a socialist economic unhearing, which private enterprises hear higher growth. So they formed this kind of consensus. Then the government, which were not able to manage the economy in a true sense, is not that the present government, what we have in last 8 or 9 years, is afraid of any bold initiative or lack any political capital to see them through. No, it's not like that. The real issue is that this government and the Indian bureaucracy, unlike what we had in 1991, aren't set up to develop consensus behind the liberalized reform. So what happens is the key Indian technocrats grew to support such reform during their time at the international level, such as World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, or maybe United Nations, which began introducing them to India's 1980s kind of liberalized reform social ethics basis. But by 1991, after years of consultation and debate, they were ready to implement. I can say it's under pressure of the crisis, which founded perfect shape in then the finance minister when we had in 1993, our great leader Manmohan Singh, which was a, a discerning deliverable in the trade policy. So two things I could learn from that change during that recent or the previous years. First among was allied development, economists. Third one, the academic emphasis, which shifted from the chasing this prosperity through free trade and economic growth to the residing poverty, which much redistribution programs were the resigning sign of research, which were focused on what government intervention are most effective using the methods such as controlling trials that won many prizes. So what happened second point it could be note down, the bureaucratic system is not longer functioning as it once did. Building proposal or building cross-party consensus, it was not there. I think in the present government, if you see or if you go through the government record, the Modi government in this last 1.5 term, say 7.5 years, only a quarter of the bill which were introduced in a parliament were referred to the export committee, which is far below the 70% plus or 60% rate to the previous two government when the Manmohan Singh government was there. So what is the difference between these two to measure the reforms in the economic which influence the supply chain globally? Top of it, India has taken a helicoptering influence economics such as former RBI governor, which is homegrown economics within the bureaucracy. Their ideas have been limited by in form of the permanent bureaucracy, which always resistant to the outside opinion. So what happened in nutshell, I can say what India had 30 years ago and lack now is the infrastructure where good idea can be refined and rise to the top level of the government. But idea can come only when the environment can become conducive to. Until then, it regained that sensible economic reform appears to be clicked. And having said that, when you go through this fine justification or running the place of multi lateral, vertical output performance in total alongside economic resilience and global supply chain measure. So this particular kind of scenario, it impact the more or less the social economic factor and the resilience of the more and more uh, uphill tasks to the Indian government. So, nutshell, I can say that global economy will back to the full employment very soon, or it's on the already in track. And I think right kind of policy already in place, but it's required a lot of steps to taken, especially at the government sector, because if you see today's scenario, only the infrastructure projects are there in the place, and and this last decade of global disappointment has affected us in a very serious manner. So by keeping this in 2023 onwards, beyond innovation and efficiency to the customer satisfaction. So what happens is this agility and resilience of the ecosystem both need to emerge together in the present scenario. So trend is driving innovation, transformation of industry is on the way. Companies are seeking to capitalize the opportunity offered by the industry captain, and this rapidly growing changing marketplace is a need for hand holding to all the company stakeholders to minimize their operational product deliverable which goes to the end user in this whole competitive market. I can say I have been able to cover up all the points, but I was about to finish my site, and I would like to thank to all audience and colleague. And over to you, Smita, for the rest of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. There were a little bit of, I think, glitches, technical glitches, but still it was a very insightful session. And I would now request the participants to kindly put in their questions, and then we can further move forward. Also, there will be a link shared for the feedback. So kindly fill that feedback form. And those who fill that will be able to, the link is already there in the chat box. So you can go to the chat box and kindly fill the link. Meanwhile, the questions come in. See, sir, actually, I would like to ask one question that nowadays there's so much geopolitical conflict. I mean, there's a tension going on between China and USA. And also there's a conflict between Ukraine and Russia, as we all know. And this can definitely disrupt global trade. So now how can companies navigate these challenges and ensure continuity of the supply chain operations in the face of such conflicts? Because, there's never a deadline to such conflicts. Ukraine and Russia has been there for quite some time now. So how can companies...
Okay.
Yes.
In a response? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, you're clear.
See, Russia and Ukraine war is something which is limited to the region in specific. It has not affected the rest of the world, and most probably in the CS country, up to some of the few European country along with that side has a major impact, but their supply chain has, if you see in a global perspective, supply chain has not been affected because they have their in-house arrangement, which is a kind of fill and gap kind of strategy is always there. So even Russia also has not been affected by this kind of supply chain because they have interlink and system in place which they don't need. But having said that, if the war go for a little longer, then in that situation, it could further, because uh, you may have inventories or any other daily needs of stuff not beyond the 2 years or say something, because beyond that you need to further hunt around the world. So in that scenario, I hope that this war may not go up to that limit or that longer, and till such time, I think they are quite sufficient to utilize their resources what they have in hand. Over to you.
Okay, sir. Okay. Also, you spoke about government's role and how important it is. So, and already it has done quite some changes it has brought. But what more can the government do to promote more robust and sustainable supply chain ecosystem, global supply chain ecosystem?
See, government has come out with various policy. I was talking in the beginning of my speech that is called a national logistic policy. I don't know how many of you have gone through the national logistic policy, which covers each and every vertical of this industry. What we have today here, and 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 every industry captain need to utilize that, mm, and say buffer or kind of assistance from the government, which is already there in the place in terms of financial aspect, as well as the government policy, and a kind of assistant to meet the demand of the product. So yeah, I think it will take some little longer time to address you on the national logistic policy, but I would suggest everyone to go to that particular policy, which can um, give you the insight about the policy of each and every industry in particular. Over to you.
Okay, sir. There's a question that came in that can governments provide grants regarding the problem of supply chain management?
No, government is providing the grants only to the startup, which up to 10 crores, or there is a limit or a kind of uh, timeline of 3 years, or they have to show the performance, but not to the to any existing industry or vertical or say product. That may be in large scale where you have a healthy balance sheet. Government may look for the advancement of your technology, if it is that not for your or to enhance your capex. It is only your enhancement of your technology. If it is into that respect or in that context, of course, government can. And there is a provision, government extend the support up to the level of policy drafted in the national logistic policy. So one has to go through the national logistic policy to gain the more information. Over to you.
Okay. Okay. And to add to that, can they make the government can make any MOUs with any organization?
Government has already have memorandum of association or understanding with several captains of the industry, such as say in a high-tech industry in healthcare. We already have. If you see during the COVID, how Ministry of Health, Central Ministry of Health, Government of India tied up with the Serum Institute in Pune to manufacture the vaccine. So this is one such example. In such a case, what happened? There is no joint venture from the outside. What you call that technology or your or research team IP, which call in the international assistant in terms of your vaccine preparation or production. But government here extended the MOU with the player of that particular healthcare directly by or on basis of their research output. Therefore, we had a result of the vaccine in place during the pandemic year. Over to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. It has been a very wholesome and comprehensive session. I think you've covered all the aspects of global supply chain management. Now, on behalf of AIMS, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Jagatpati Jha for his insightful and thought-provoking
Your
talk
voice
on
is
global
breaking.
supply chain.
I'm not able to hear you.
You're not able to hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, madam, you are audible.
Okay, okay.
Now you are audible. Now you are audible.
Okay. So on behalf of AIMS, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Jagatpati Jha for his insightful and thought-provoking talk on global supply chain management. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. R. Nandagopal, President of AIMS, and Dr. A.M. Agrawal, Executive Board Member of AIMS, for their unwavering support and guidance. The contribution of AIMS Secretariat in organizing such sessions is also deeply appreciated. Finally, I would also like to thank all the participants for taking their time to attend this session and for their active participation in the discussion. Your engagement and enthusiasm have made this session a truly enriching experience. Thank you all once again, and we look forward to your continued support in our future endeavors. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for a beautiful audience. And once again, thank you to Dr. Nandagopal, my respected sirs, for giving me an opportunity to address this session, and Dr. Joshi, and of course, Smita, for your wonderful moderating the session. So thank you once again and have a good day ahead. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.